Your garden soil is about to do something very strange. And the reason for why is because you're about to hit fall. Now, if you're on this channel, one of the main reasons you probably follow it is because I have a background in soil science. I have a whole dang degree in it. I worked in this world for about 15 years, if not more. That's really dating myself. And one of the things I'm very passionate about, obviously, is soil. And one major misconception is that you should just give up on your soil, even if it's bare, such as the ground behind me, and call it a day once the garden begins to fade. But the reality here is that you should not let that happen. And if you let it happen, you are missing out on some major untouched potential, regardless of what kind of garden it is. Whether it's an annual bed, such as one again behind me, or if it's an entire tree or orchard or perennial bed, whatever the case may be. Today's video, we're going to look at what is about to happen to your soil here in the next few months, because here's a hint, it doesn't just slow down here in the next month, it continues for quite a while, and how you can actually support that, which then in turn will give you a head start next year against things like pests, disease, fertility, and keeping the soil warm or getting the soil warmer earlier in the season, which means you are in the garden earlier, which means you have better germination, which means you have better transplant. You get the rest of the idea. In the meantime, don't mind me while I water my bare dirt. Now, logically, your garden is beginning to fade, but there's a major misconception here that when the above ground biomass begins to kind of taper out, the below ground biomass, and for that matter, the below ground environment in general, is doing the same. That cannot be farther from the truth. And that simply is just not the case. Air temperature and soil temperature are two very different things. We very simply assume that when the above ground biomass isn't growing, the below ground biomass is not as well. However, things like grasses, for example, actually grow best when the ambient air temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius and the below ground biomass is warmer than what you would normally expect when the air temperature is 10 degrees Celsius in the early spring, which means the fall time is actually one of the best times for things like root development. Those carbohydrates that were produced via photosynthesis for the entire summer can now be utilized for things like root development. This can also include things like rhizomes, crowns, bulbs, any sort of other storage structure out there. Next up is actually the soil microbes. The soil microbes right now have a metric buttload of food. They have the compost or the fertilizers you've been adding for the entire season. They also have a number of different roots that have and root hairs that have developed and kind of infiltrated the soil to deeper depths than ever seen before and have decomposed or died off over time. You also have the newt root activity that we were talking about before that develops best in these warm soil but cool ambient air temperatures. And what this means is you have releasing of exudates, which in turn means food for microbes. This time of year is one of the best times to try to keep your annual crops that otherwise would be completely spent and you would throw out alive and well. And one of the best ways to do this is via watering, keeping that soil moisture up. Soil moisture allows for something called biofilm. Biofilm allows for something we call microbe homes. Microbe homes in turn result in more biological activity, such as reproducing and making more of themselves, along with decomposition, cycling of nutrients, mineralization of nutrients that is currently locked up and not available to your plants. You get the idea. The key here is that when this freezes off entirely, I have aphids. Why do I hate aphids? Celery and aphids. Dang it. I need some ladybugs. I should have bought ladybugs from Costco. ADHD brain. I apologize. But if you allow these microbes to kind of thrive and survive in your soil system, it will benefit you in the future. Next up actually is the fact that the plants don't just need moisture. They don't just need the food source. That's the roots and the compost, the manures, whatever you've added throughout the year. But it also needs some aeration. So if you have moisture, you have plant debris, but you have some compaction due to very natural processes, such as you walking across the garden when you go to water, or animals, kids. Maybe you had a year of just rain. That actually does compact the soil. Natural compaction that happens as things begin to settle down. Whatever the case may be, you may want to choose to actually aerate it. This is particularly true for things such as your lawn, but it's not limited to that. You can obviously also aerate with just your natural crops that you see, your perennial gardens, whatever the case may be. Now, you can use a soil probe. You can very simply just use a knife, whatever the case. The list here is quite endless. The idea here is that you're just causing air to enter into the system. Broad forks work great for this. Pitchforks work great for this. Shovels work great for this. An important thing to talk about, and it may be a little bit nerdy in the world of soil science, but that is the difference between nitrification and nitrate movements. So nitrification, very simply put, is the process that microbes go through with nitrogen in the soil. Ammonium is converted into nitrates and nitrites. We know this because of the nitrogen cycle. Ammonium is positively charged, and it can very easily be suspended in a soil with a cation exchange capacity that is negative. Nitrate, on the other hand, is negatively charged, and this is not as easily suspended in a soil system because of this negative charge, meaning it's generally leached out or moved below the root system. So one of the main ways in which this moves out of the soil system or out of the root zone is via water. Water, if you did not know, is differently charged than soil. And because of this, it tends to leach out things like nitrates, and nitrates obviously does not leach out ammonium, which has a totally different charge and is best suspended in things like clay soils. This is where balance comes in. So while I said you had to keep the soil moist to keep the microbes happy, we don't want to overwater. So I've discussed in my video previous about the demands for plants and how to keep your garden going later into the season. And one of the ways in which to do this is to ensure you're not overwatering. It's very important because the demands for water decrease because the daylight length is decreasing. The temperature at night is decreasing. The plant in and of itself is just shutting down. And while you need to keep the soil moist enough to keep the microbes going, particularly like the beginning bed I was watering that has no plants in it, but still has soil. The other part to this conversation is we don't want to keep it too moist, and we want to protect it against really heavy rains with things like tarps, because water does and will leach out things like nitrate and nitrite. Another really great way to ensure that this doesn't happen in excess is the addition of things like compost and manures. And then the other option here is to ensure that we don't use too many excessive levels of nitrogen. So this can obviously be synthetic forms such as urea. There's also non-synthetic forms of this, organic forms of this, such as blood meal. Now, logically speaking, there are things like leaves about to fall, mulch that is slowly decomposing, all of which will actually help to slow down this process and in turn actually kind of help to keep that moisture in a appropriate spot, if you will. With that being said, if you want to learn more on how to actually shut down the garden properly, then I suggest you hit that subscribe button. I'm not going to be doing it here today or this week, but in the future, I'm going to discuss the difference between leaving things like tomato plants in place and upright versus actually removing them by pulling them out entirely, roots and all, versus actually cutting them off at the base and leaving the roots in place. Depending on what your situation may be with disease, pests, your garden goals, what your soil is like, you may choose one of those three options over another, again, for various different reasons: drought condition, too much water, compaction, whatever the case may be. The list for why you would choose one of those three is completely endless. So again, hit that subscribe button. In the meantime, if you want to know what you can do in August to benefit both your garden and your soil, check out this video right here. And that video is what Google says you should watch next. I will talk to you guys next time.